Alright, so hello everyone and welcome back to Dual Wisdom. And yeah, I'm your host SVG. And before comments start piling up saying that I was late or not, which I know that I'm not gonna be there because not many people follow this channel. But anyway, today I'm here and today we are going to do a video that is not what we generally do on this channel. And I genuinely thought that we should be doing this because Infinity War has been in all the ways a very big thing these days, and by these days I mean that yes, I am kind of late at that too. I mean, it's already been about what, like 2-3 weeks, but right now I'm here today and we're going to talk about the different scenes that weren't there in the film, that were in the trailer. Now you guys clicked on this video because of what you saw on the thumbnail, and I'm completely aware that you want to take a look at that as well, and we'll be getting to that. But I'm also aware that that's one of the most common and one of the most spoken of scenes in the trailer that everybody knows of. So this video is also going to be about the other scenes that were there in the trailer but didn't make it to the film, that the people don't really talk that much about, and it's going to be like really specific. It's going to be really nitpicky. I've tried to be as factually correct on all of these points as I could be. If by some off chance I missed anyone's scene, or if by some chance I called out a scene that was there in the film but still I didn't notice it maybe and I called it out over here, just don't hate, just mention it quietly in the comment section below and I'll take a look at that. But for the most part, I am plenty sure that all the scenes mentioned in this video are not there in the movie but were there in the trailer. Now, so let's first start off with the first trailer itself. So as we see, the scene opens up where we see the planet Titan, and well, this scene obviously is there in the film, but it's not exactly like that. Let me put that into perspective here. Now obviously the same shot is there in the film, but there's this spaceship that's going across this planet, which is not here yet. Of course, that would have been done later on because this trailer dropped way before the film did. So I mean, I'm not trying to hate on it. I mean, personally I love the film, so there's no point of me on doing that, but I'm just trying to point it out. So that was one scene that was not there. Now this scene was there. At this point it's much easier to talk about the scenes that are not in the film rather than the scenes that are in the film. Let me just walk you through all of this trailer so you'll be getting a better idea of what I'm talking about. So this scene over here, yes, this was there in the movie, I'm pretty sure you remember it, but in this scene it wasn't exactly like this. Over here we see Banner just sitting barely dressed in the rubble, but in the movie he wasn't just just there. He was turning back from his Hulk form into his Banner form while the camera panned over him. So that's a bit different. It's just not exactly the same, so I'm just here pointing it out. This scene was the same. Okay, again, this scene was there in the film, but it wasn't just exactly as it's shown over here. Now I'm not sure if you watched this movie that closely enough, but while I was watching it I kind of got the idea of which scenes were there in the film or not, because plenty sure at least 1 million out of the 191 million is mine. This scene over here, it didn't really happen that same way. In the movie the camera kind of pans over from the top to the center of the screen where we see Raccoon sitting in front of Thor right there. So Thor isn't really visible by this angle anymore because Raccoon is covering him over. So that's a bit different, but again, that was all CGI, so that's understandable why they removed that. But when we get to the next scene over here, we see that Banner is standing in front of what looks like Hulkbuster's arm, and well, this scene wasn't there in the film because this guy was actually in the Hulkbuster himself, and this scene looks more of like what would happen after the war. So obviously we weren't shown what would happen, but this scene in short never did take place. Later, this scene, now I am not really sure about this, but I'd still call this one out. I don't think the scene was in there. Now we see that Mark Ruffalo is looking at Scarlett Johansson, but this thing didn't really happen in the film. Moving on, these scenes were there, but yes, this scene, alright, this is one of my favorite among all the scenes that were there, or rather not there, while still being there in the film. Now it's pretty common that the scenes that are shown in the trailer many a times don't really make it out in the real film. But in this scene we see that Tony is going over there and he's opening the door and he gets out. But before he opens the door, he looks back at presumably Doctor Strange and the others. But if you look at the film, this scene, when it happened, Tony didn't actually take a look back to see or take a look at, Stephen Strange. Instead, he just opened the door as is without looking back. That makes a bit more sense because Tony, who hardly knows Doctor Strange, would not look for his approval while opening the door. So it makes a lot of sense that they replaced this scene in the movie. But then why was this scene even there in the first place? Well, I think that was because in the trailer they want the audience to understand that this is Tony that we are talking about. Otherwise we wouldn't realize who it is that's opening the door if he doesn't look back at the camera. This is there and that. Up. Wait a second.
What in the actual ass? Dale, why are the visual effects not done?
Now that scene, of course, I know that you remember that scene being there, but that again is not exactly how it happens. Over here we see that Loki is just turning his hand to reveal the Tesseract out of, it was always in his hand, that's how it's shown in the scene. But in the movie, that's not really how it played out. In the movie, it kind of appeared in his hands, in Doctor Strange's case, like how the Time Stone appeared in his hands. So, but in this case, it's just like he's turning it over, whereas in the movie, it appears out of thin air. Moving on, again, this. Alright, now this scene. Get this man a shield. Now this scene, frankly speaking, mostly all of the scenes in this trailer that were actually pretty badass did not exactly make it into the movie. Now this scene, yes, the dialogue, it was in the movie. The scene of him pointing over to Chris Evans while saying that give this man a shield was there, but this exact shot of him saying it this way was not. The shot in fact was from a different angle, and it was while he was walking away out of the room. So yeah, it was also kind of different. Then the action scenes were there, I have to believe they were, because actions are pretty fast, so mostly you don't get an idea of what punch was there or what not, and it really doesn't really matter as well. So I don't really remember this scene, Falcon getting really angry while putting off his bullets, but I'm not really sure, so I won't really say much about that. Then there's this scene which I think happened, and then there's the most controversial scene of all, the one where a lot of superheroes are just running over to the camera, and this scene was also cut off. Now, there's a lot of reasons why this scene just couldn't have made its way to the movie, and it's possibly the most obvious choice to cut out of the film. One is, from the get-go, it's very obvious that this scene was always designed to be a part of the trailer itself and not the part of the movie, because when scripts are written, when everything like that is done, it's already decided that Hulk is not going to be in this scene because Hulk is not going to be Hulk. He's in a freaking Hulkbuster suit. He's not going to be there as Hulk in this scene because he just cannot turn into the Hulk. And we know that it was decided way beforehand because Mark Ruffalo in an interview said that this not being able to turn into a Hulk thing, it's going to keep on happening for 2-3 more upcoming movies. So of course he wasn't going to be able to turn into Hulk. So this scene couldn't have been possible. And again, it's very obvious that this scene was also meant for us as viewers, because everyone's basically just running over the camera. So there's that. This scene wasn't there, and why it wasn't there is also pretty much clear. And last but not least, from this first trailer, we see at the end that this scene is pretty much there in the movie, yes, but it's in completely different context. So over here we see that Thor gets up and he looks behind and he says, "Who the hell are you guys?" And the Guardians of the Galaxy are pretty much, they're kind of happy about him. They seem pretty cool. But that's not exactly how it happened. Again, in the movie, they thought of him as hostile first. So that's why as soon as he woke up, they were all on their guard. Whereas over here, they were waving at him, they're happy to see him. And again, it makes sense for the trailer to include this scene, whereas the movie not including this scene because, well, we don't want to see a pissed off Guardians of the Galaxy when we're seeing them for the first time in the trailer. So yeah, makes sense. So that basically takes care of the first trailer. Now I think you kind of understand what I meant when I said it's a lot more easier to talk about the scenes that were not in the movie rather than the scenes that were in the movie. Next, moving on to the next trailer, here we see that the world is turning over. Now I'm not sure if that scene was there or not, but I'm not going to call it out because I'm not sure. Next scene here, this is one that I'm sure of. This scene wasn't there in the movie, and it just wasn't. The end of story. Now this is kind of like a misleading scene, and it's good that they put it over here, because that way we kind of expected something else and got something else, which isn't bad in itself. But here it kind of seems like Tony Stark is talking to Gamora, whereas he's not. It's Gamora explaining stuff to Thor on one hand, and Tony asking a question from Bruce Banner on the other hand. So I mean, it's a good thing to put in the trailer. And I wouldn't say that it's kind of cheating the audience, but it's just something that didn't exactly happen as a scene and not as a shot. Again, a Spidey scene. Again, if you take a look at this trailer, you'd notice that most of the scenes in this trailer did end up coming in the movie, because this came a bit more closer to the release date of the film, so it makes sense. Now the trailer is a bit more of a finished product. The CGI is a lot more done, and stuff's finalized. But here, I don't know if, again, I don't know many people noticed or not. In this scene, when we see that, T'Challa is shaking hands with Captain America, that's not exactly how it happened. I mean, yes, that's scene-wise, that's exactly how it happened. I mean, they did shake hands, but the attention wasn't on them. So in the movie, we did see T'Challa's expression while he was shaking hands with Captain America, but Captain America's face was not shown while they were shaking hands, so one could say that shot was cut from the film. This is one of the scenes that I actually wanted to talk about, and also one of the scenes that I don't really know why they changed at all. The scene's almost the same, so as you can hear over here, Star-Lord is saying that, let's talk about this idea of yours, whereas in the movie, that's a line that he never says. Instead, he says that, okay, we're really optimistic, and I like your idea, except it sucks. Now, to me personally, the first line that was there in the trailer was a bit more funny. It was a bit more of his character, but I don't know why they changed it, but they did. And it's one thing that I just cannot make sense of. But, it's changed and many people didn't even notice, but again, just take my word for that. Then we see some more of this action. This scene when Hulkbuster's getting up, it's also a bit different, because in the trailer we see that he's proudly getting up, whereas in the movie Bruce was not that proud at the moment. He just fell on dirt, and he was like cleaning off the dirt on his face while getting up. So there's no dirt on his face at the point, and he's not cleaning off any dirt from his face, so it's a bit different. Again, I'm just trying to point out the obvious. Then we look at this scene. This is also one of the most popular scenes, not being there in the movie, that was there in the trailer, where Thor uses his new hammer, or I'd say an axe, to kind of unleash these thunderbolts into this room. So, well, that didn't really happen, because we didn't see his new hammers or axe's powers until he enters Wakanda, which makes a lot of sense. But this scene being in the trailer and not being there in the movie kind of did disappoint a lot of fans. But it did make up for a very awesome Wakanda scene. Yeah, this scene was also not there, and before you start to hate on it, saying that, okay, this scene was definitely there, it was in the beginning of the movie, I'm pretty sure I saw it, well, it wasn't there. Instead, it was Thanos using his Power Stone to kind of damage Thor, instead of him trying to crush his skull with his bare hands. I'm pretty sure you remember that, right? Mostly every other scene was there. And it's a pretty good thing, I like this idea of removing a lot of scenes from the trailer, from the final, product, the final movie, because it kind of spoils the movie less, but gets you excited for the same. Then we see Thanos jumping over the camera, which I am kind of positive never happened. Now, I can be wrong about that, but still I'll kind of put my stakes on that scene not being there in the movie. And after that, again, one of the most controversial scenes, which I think was for the better for once, the number of Infinity Stones on the Infinity Gauntlet. Now, the Infinity Stones in the trailer have been consecutively 2, namely the Power Stone and the Space Stone. Obviously, Marvel didn't want you to know the number of Infinity Stones that were going to be there in the movie. They just wanted you to think that, he'll be getting them eventually, but it's not sure whether he'll be getting all of that before the fight or whether he'll be getting all of them at all, especially the most talked about, the Soul Stone, the one whose location wasn't known just before this film. So, this is one change that I was really happy with, and it was a welcoming sight to sit in the audience in theater and take a look at the exact same scene but with more Infinity Stones in his hand. Then comes this scene, where Peter introduces himself to Stephen Strange, and this is an amazing scene. But again, I don't understand why, but they kind of changed it. Probably because they thought that Doctor Strange wouldn't react this way when talked to a kid, because he doesn't take people seriously that easily. Okay, so in this scene, what happened was Peter tried to introduce himself to Stephen when stuff was kind of heated. You know, he was having an argument, or going to have an argument with Tony. So Peter kind of, you know, jumped in and tried to introduce himself to Doctor Strange, but obviously he wasn't really interested, so he kind of talked while he looked the other way. So as you can see in the trailer, he's looking directly at Peter, whereas in the movie he looked the other way and kind of turned back to reply to Peter, where Peter then said that, okay, we are talking about superhero names, so yeah, my name is Spider-Man, to which Doctor Strange doesn't reply at all and just moves off, whereas in the trailer we see that he's just looking there blankly. And that now brings us to the last scene, which was pretty epic, with Peter falling off from great height, web slinging from one place to the other while these different, like, you know, asteroid thingies fall from the sky. Well, this is also not exactly how it happened. In fact, this scene was a lot more different, and well, again, I understand why it was so different in the movie and in the trailer, because, you know, in this scene in the movie, Peter was web slinging, of course, yes, the scenery was mostly the same, but he had his 17A suit on, which was the Iron Spider suit. And it makes sense because they didn't want to spoil it before the movie came out, and that was a big issue for this movie. And they did learn from Justice League that it was obviously a bad idea to spoil stuff before the movie actually comes out, aka Superman's arrival, which we will be talking about in the next video if this video gets good reception, which I highly doubt. But if it does, then we'll obviously make another follow-up video of this. And also in this scene, we could see that he was trying to save a couple people, like the Guardians of the Galaxy, from falling off, so, you know, that was there also. Alright guys, so this brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. This was the most scenes that I could find out of the trailers that were not there in the movie. Again, that doesn't make a difference, it's pretty common, but the number of shots that didn't make it, or, you know, the number of alternate shots that actually did, is why this was so different and why it was so talked about. If you enjoyed this video, please do make sure to leave a like, and also comment down below about which of the scenes did you actually notice not happening in the movie that were there in the trailer. And, you know, also if you think otherwise, you know, do let me know. Yeah, again, thank you guys, and I hope to see you next time as well. Probably making up a follow-up video of this, if this video, you know, kind of earns good glory and my channel is monetizable again.